I'm Annette McCoy, and it's always my absolute pleasure to be with you at this time. Today, my guest is Elaine Ann, and of course, Elaine Ann comes at this time every month. Welcome, Elaine Ann. Well, I'm doing very, very well, thank you. My house is full of beautiful floral arrangements because, as the people who tuned in last week know, my gorgeous mum passed into heaven, passed into the spirit world just 2 weeks ago, I think. Yeah, so it's 2 weeks ago today, which is it seems like such a long time ago, and it's still another couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, I think, until we celebrate her life, because at the moment there are grandchildren holidaying overseas. Aren't we so fortunate, Elaine, that we have these choices? And of course, the celebration will be telecast as well. The options that we have these days are just wonderful. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Good on you. Wow. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, yes, indeed. Indeed. And we are fortunate, I believe, I feel very fortunate that I know that life continues, and that, okay, while people I don't like the word sad. People are saying to me, "Oh, I'm sad. They're sad for me." My mother lived for 92 years, and I know that I can still connect with her, and she's connecting with me. There are signs every so often. It's like, "Oh, hello." So it's about, for me, getting used to this next phase in my life that we know is going to happen. And I think when someone has had such a wonderful long life, in some ways it's easier to accept. I mean, my mum was ready. You know, she's having a lovely time now with all of the people who preceded her into the afterlife. And yeah, it's so I hope this morning that we can help people not only with numerology, but with exploring what our life, this is a human experience we're having at the moment. And it's one, I believe, of many that we have. And so, oh, yes, Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. So to reinforce it, is that why we're writing something 3 times? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. It's interesting you mention an artist because I went to the Loom yesterday to the Van Gogh exhibition, and one of his statements was he was creating all of these paintings and yet they weren't selling, and he found that difficult to understand at times. And mhm, right, mm, that's interesting because that would be subconscious. Mm. And so we can relate to that in no matter what we're talking about or what's happening in our lives. Are we holding on? We think we're letting go and yet we're not. Mm, mm-hmm, mm, mm. Ah, what a lovely idea. Mm-hmm. sorry, because it's, oh, yes, I've, this is really interesting. For some reason, I have you on my phone. I'm wondering, I'm going to hang that up and then see what happens. Can you hear me, Elaine?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Now, that's hilarious.
Yes. That was funny. We didn't hang up.
This is live TV. It is. It's live TV. I think this is hysterical.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Okay, let's see if this works now. Da, 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 da. Bear with us, everybody. This is really interesting. No, that's still not happening. I'm having a little play because for some reason, because I don't understand why. Oh, there you are. Know that now. It's only taken me 10 minutes to work out what's happening. Mark 2.
Oh, that's so funny.
Start again.
See, normally I would be in a pole somewhere thinking, what have I done wrong? But with your encouragement, I wasn't like that today.
Well, the thing is, we're finding out more about life. This is typical of life, isn't it? And so what a great example. Oh, you're hearing me okay now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Cool. This is nothing like doing a live test. So at the moment we're talking to ourselves, it would seem. All right, now let's start again. And there's a classic example, isn't it, of you and I working through a little challenge this morning. We could have thrown our hands up in the air and gone, oh, no, it's not going to work. However, listen to that not in there.
Yeah.
Whereas we were able to say, I wonder what is going on. And thankfully, it all worked.
Yes, it did. It went hand in hand. I think because we weren't, even though I was a bit flustered, because I organised myself all this morning, it didn't work out. But we got there at the end. Yeah. And I laugh a lot with myself.
And because we're learning all the time, aren't we? We can go down the fluster path as so many, we do from time to time. When we can realise what we're doing and just stop and take that deep breath and maybe ask the question, I wonder what is going on.
Yes.
And then see, and we save ourselves a lot of angst.
Yes, we do.
You know, we have that choice, do I go down the panic road or do I simply ask, I wonder what is going on?
Yeah. And to have it all, like this morning, having it all set up when I had the shower and whatever else, and then suddenly it just didn't work. It was like, but we worked it out, and that's a good thing.
We can laugh about it now. Yes.
Yeah.
And so how often, sometimes I prepare well in advance. I did this with a trip overseas. I had everything organised in my papers for overseas. Did I look there when where are we going? What hotel? And I pushed the panic button because I just, I haven't done it. Whereas, yes, I had, but I was prepared too far in advance and didn't then recheck.
Yeah.
So,
So
learning about ourselves.
Yeah. See, and when we're in the July month, it's knowledge. We're finding out different things. about ourselves as well as others. It is the, well, it's coming to the end of July, but it's like we'll understand the knowledge of where things can always turn out. And it's down on the bottom line of practicality, down to earth and very practicality, but it's very, it's what they call the born healer, the number 7. So we're healing ourselves by having a good laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's funny how numbers can mean anything. To some people, they're not into numerology, and that's fine. But if they looked at the month and the year, like the month this year, and sort of like August coming up, August is all about control. It's about money. It's about abundance. But it's also karmic lessons. So letting go of people or letting go of things we don't desire, it's karmic as in good and bad. So people that are coming to your life may leave. All right.
People who are
in your life,
yes,
may leave. And it's like etheric contracts. It's to do with contracts. So you may have a friend that's been in your life for, say, 3 or 4 years, but that may come to an end because your contracts are finished.
Interesting you bring that up, because I had a friend recently who said we're not to have anything to do with each other anymore.
Yeah.
Happened a few months ago. And that was interesting. I picked you when you said people might leave. Because of my experience in the last month, it was like, oh, really? You mean a relationship might end? Yeah,
relationships. And see, that's what 2022 is about, relationships. And it's to do, the 2's all about pairing things up, looking at things and saying, okay, if I book in to do this and this and this, but I've still got to, like me, I've still got to pick my grandson up from school, and I've still got to do this and that and this and that. It's putting things into perspective and making them work. But the 2's also about the analytical mind, solving the problem before it gets too big. And it is our psychic number, the intuitive mother number, because the 2 represents mum. The lady that taught me numerology, she actually said she doesn't like a 2-year because as she was getting older, she found people were leaving the planet because it means endings of partnerships and starting afresh with partnerships. But that could be in love as well, divorce, marriage, and it's also about boyfriend, girlfriend. And you could be with someone for 5 years and then suddenly go, I just don't feel it anymore. But it's allowing those feelings to come up where most people push them down. And see, when you add it up, the 6 becomes 20, 22, 0, 22. It becomes the 6. So the 6 is all about family. It's about nurturing, being creative. And that's your solar plexus. Oh, not your solar plexus, sorry. That's your creative tummy. So it's saying that if you have an idea, as I said before, write it down and start afresh. Write it down 3 times, as I said before. But it's more about people understanding that with the 7th month, that was really hard month for people, all right, because they self-sacrifice their time. They have high expectations with the 7. It's legal stuff as well, because the 7 is the justice system. But it's also about the well-being of people. People will find out, like last month or this month, the 7th month, that there's a lot of illness, or there could be they feel like they're putting their life on hold for people all the time. So then when they come into the 8th month, it's a better month than the 7th, not being it's like the 8 is taking control. So if you, as you know, if you draw the 8, it goes, there's no break in it. It's like a 0, there's no break. But it does mean abundance.
Right.
So it means it can be what you've planted your seeds for the last 4 years, 4 months will ripen and you reap the rewards of it.
Because with the 8, I always think of infinity as well.
Yes. If you turn it on the side, it's infinity. The infinity signs everywhere, through the churches, everywhere. And it's just people understanding. If they have an 8 in their birthday, like I have next month, it's saying stop stressing about money. Money will always be around you. The less you think of money, I haven't got enough, the less you'll have. The more you think, no, I've got plenty.
Enough. Yes, because I understand that, because for years I tended to hold on to money tightly in my fist, and then I realised that the more I can let it go, the more that comes in.
Yeah,
one needs an open palm, an open hand.
And see, with the 6 and the 7, that was 14, wasn't it? That becomes a 5.
7.
6 and 7 is 13.
Yeah.
Yes. So this month, the 1, the 6 and 8.
Oh, I'm with 14. You. It's 14. That's right. Yeah. Which is a 5.
So, yes, it becomes a 5. And 5 is freedom of the spirit. But the 4 is telling you, wait a minute, don't step out your front door. So people are feeling anxious about moving forward or going on a holiday, because 5 can mean holiday as well. But it's freedom of the spirit, enjoying life, and yet going out and having fun. But the 4 is saying, the 14 is saying, don't do that, because the 4 is the grounding number and saying, really think about your money. Don't spend your money. You need it for your future and things like that. Where the 5 is saying, go and do it. All right. So then the 8 is saying, take control of where you want to be this month. All right. I know it sounds confusing. But
well, it comes down to choice, doesn't it? I really like hearing all of this, because then it reinforces the fact, okay, how am I going to respond to life in August? Yeah. Am I going to go on an adventure? Because isn't it fun when we see life as an adventure?
It is. Like every day, even though you can get down, I can get down just like anyone else, feel a bit stressed or down. I just think, how can it get any better than this? And then I've always said to myself, if you're feeling down now, it's time to come up. You've had your chance to feel down. Now your choice is to change what is affecting you around. Some things are out of our control. You know, with people around us, it's out of our control. And when it feels out of our control, look at something else to make you happy. I'll tell you a funny story.
Yes.
I cut, because I'm into sewing at the moment. That is my meditation. And I cut out a pair of jammy pants myself, like from an old pair of pants. I sewed it all up, but I hadn't sewn the pants. I'd sewn it as one and couldn't work out what I'd done wrong. But then I laughed about it because it was so silly, but it was funny at the same time.
Well, how good that you could laugh about it rather, and see, that's a choice we have. You know, if I spill water, or worse still, I spill milk or whatever, I've got the choice of how I respond.
Yeah.
Do I go into a frenzy, or do I laugh about it, which is what I tend to do these days? Oh, well, that was a little silly. A good way to clean the floor or whatever.
Yeah. I've done that many times, spilt water, and I've gone, oh, well, the floor needs a good wash anyway, so off I go. It's like the universe saying, Elaine, clean your floors.
So what did you do with the pajama pants that were really a skirt?
I actually unpicked it all and started again, and now I've made them. Yeah,
Wow.
I made them within an hour and a half last night.
Well done.
So I couldn't stop laughing. I thought, if anyone saw me, and I put them on. Silly me, put them on. Oh, it was so funny. And I said to my husband, I think I've made a mistake with these. There's no legs. It was all one big circle.
Well,
but anyway, it made us smile, made us laugh. So,
well,
yeah.
And that's the interesting thing, the fact that, yes, we're able to laugh. And if we remember to say, oh, that was a silly thing, rather than silly me, that's another step. Is how often do we self-criticize just by habit without really thinking about what we're saying and what we're sort of throwing into ourselves? So again, language, most important.
Yes, it is, because we self-sabotage our own selves by our chatter.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if there's a 3-month coming up or anything that equals a 3, it can also mean what we say, because the 3 is very powerful, because it's mind, body, spirit, and it is connecting to a higher source as well. If people find that when they're in a 3-month, it, how can I say, it means go out and have fun and enjoy, right? But it's also saying be careful what comes out of your mouth, because sometimes we can say something and we go, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But it's also saying, like, I think I've said before, my mum was very good with saying she didn't have enough money in her purse, and she never did. So she was concreting that word every day. So, and I was brought up like that. So I've done a lot of changes, and the way we speak, since I've been into numerology, I've found it's opened a few doors up for me. And when I do my readings, I love doing my readings with people with a numerology spirit and a little bit of card work. But it's the numerology tells me a story about the person, about how stubborn they can be, or how fun-loving. See, with a 5, like 5's all about drama. So it could mean people look at it as going out on stage. They could be on stage singing in a choir, or they could be behind the camera, or they could be help making or painting things for the stage. They're preparing themselves to show people their wares, but it's a spiritual number as well. So it means the spirit within. It does balance all your grid up if the 5's, because the 5's in the center, and it's saying mind, body, spirit. That's cool, but what are we fearing? What do we don't want to change? And it does mean a lot of changes coming in, but it doesn't mean bang, bang, bang. It's like we're preparing ourselves for the change, if that makes sense. And I've got double 5 in my birthday. And they say normally 5s are very good for, say, for August, very good for travelling. All right?
Right.
But I'm like the 5-year-old. Are we there yet? And we haven't got on the other side of the city, because where I live, the city's about half an hour, 45-minute drive. And I'm already saying, how long do we have to go? So if we're on a long drive, I take my crocheting or my knitting with me to keep me occupied. So
see, that's very good. You're dealing with the situation in a positive way.
Yes, yeah. And that's what people do. Some people do. But if we beat ourselves up about, oh, I've got to go on this trip and blah, 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 that's going to block everything that's going to be nice. Watch the scenery, have a look, you know. I went for a drive one day with my husband and they had all this grass growing. And right in the middle of the grass, I looked up, because I was crocheting, I looked up and there was this beautiful red flower. Out of all the grass, there was just one red flower and I saw it and I thought, oh, how gorgeous is that? That you can be happy doing what you're doing. I mean, we don't have to be happy every day and we can have our ups and downs. But with numerology, it can show you where you want to be, what do you want to do. And certain numbers naturally mean certain things to people. Like next, what are we? We're July still. So going into September.
No, what about August?
Correct?
You're missing August?
Yeah. So in August, it will mean even the 8 and the 6 is 14, becomes the 5. The following month, it will be a 6. So it's saying all about, is that correct? Yes. So that's all about family. And it's like football season. Everyone gets together and enjoys the end of football, or I think it finishes in October. I'm not 100%
well, it's
sure.
usually end of September. So you're talking about September as a 6?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we go into September, October, brand new beginnings, because the 1 and the 0 means new. Yes. But it's the 7 again, and the 7 is saying justification. Why am I going through what I'm going through? Look after your well-being. Okay, and it's if people are on that spiritual learning, more things will come to them. They'll draw new people that are into spiritual stuff as well. But it's the inquiring mind, finding the answers. And then what month did we get up? October, November.
Yeah.
November is an 8. So it's so the 1 and 1 and the 6. So that's to say the 8 again, taking control. And sometimes when I've done a chart for someone, just a small chart for someone, because I don't do astrology. And a lot of numerologists do astrology with it, but I hadn't had the fortune to, the know-how to do it. I'd love to learn about it, but I think my numerology wins out. So the 11th month is all about standing on our own 2 feet as well, because the 1s means inner strength. It does represent the father, number 1, but the 1 is saying there's 2 1s. So it can mean old school stuff, looking at old things, and it becomes a 2. So the 2 is all about relationships.
Right.
Does that make
Yeah. And
so
that's so many twos added together, isn't it? Like it's the two from the two ones, and
yeah,
then 2, 2, 2 because of the year. Very
yeah.
powerful.
And then you add it up, it becomes the 8. But the 2 is
Mm.
saying that people are so sensitive at the moment. But their intuition is pretty high. A lot of people I've spoken to have told me their intuition has been spot on. If they think of someone, the person will ring them or they'll bump into them.
I love
As you
when
know.
those things happen.
Mm.
You know,
amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, and because they say a lot of 2s are overabundance, meaning super sensitive, but it's also about the mother number, the mum's taking on, or the female energy taking on a role and making it happy for themselves, taking responsibility for themselves. Because if you look at it, it becomes the 8, and the 8 is I'm taking control, and I'm going to move forward, or I'm going to do something new in the family. So then we go into 12th month, the 12th month.
Which is a 9.
It's a 9, ending, starting afresh. But it's saying I'm clearing the old furniture out. I'm clearing the old clothing out. It is to do with humanitarian as well, where you find groups will bring up money and, donate money to different charities because there's underprivileged children and everything. But the 9 is also sitting back and listening, because the 9, the top of the 9 represents your head, and and that's your spine. So it's saying taking control. And a lot of people find 9 very hard because they don't want to end things. They're tempted to end things, but they don't want to, which is fine, because they'll carry it around again for another 9 months of full pregnancy. So yeah, it's amazing how beautiful numbers are. I mean, even when we're born, we have a time.
Sure.
And our essence number as well with our name, and that changes. Like Elaine is a number 5, so I stay with the E for 5 years, and the vibration means freedom.
Right.
So
Erin, I'm just interrupting you, Elaine, because Erin Gordon says this is fascinating. Thank you, ladies.
Oh, you're welcome, Erin. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
So, getting back to that, what you were saying.
The essence is you work out your name. And so say like the E in Elaine or Annette, the A is for 1 year because it means number 1. Then your N, and you've got N for 5 years. 5 years. Then you've got another N for 5 years. That's working out your essence, what your essence and what the year holds, the hidden essence hiding within us that we need to deal with.
Could we do that for Erin, seeing she's been so kind to comment?
It does take a lot of time to do it.
Oh, does it? All right.
Yeah, because you've got to have your birth name and middle name. If you haven't got a middle name, you use the surname as well. But it's writing, like with Erin, it would be 5 years of the E influence, 9 years of the R. Is that right? E-R-I is 9 years. Then you do, it's just, and then you write your name out again. But see, Erin would have maybe a middle name and a surname.
Right. No, just because you were going on my first two initial letters, I thought, oh, well,
Yeah.
do it for
But see,
Erin.
your first two initials, with Erin, the E is a 5 and the R is a 9. Now the E, that's how people see you. That's how, if you add them together, even though it becomes 14, people that come in Erin's life will be karmic, because 14 can be a karmic number as well. So it equals a 5. So with her first two, her valve, and her consonant,
Yes.
becomes a 14-5. So the 5 means when people speak to her, they feel that they're free to speak to her, and she's very nurturing, even though she could be very stressed and about stepping out of her comfort zone. She can be very nurturing to others and show people, oh, I don't care about things, but inside she could be broken up. If that makes sense, Erin, let us know.
Cool. So now how do you get a 9 for an R?
Oh, okay. Every letter in the alphabet has a number, and it goes from 1 to 9.
Right.
So your number 1 letters are A, J, S.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that's all 1. Then you have the 2
I'm going to
is
interrupt
B.
and say, Erin has just said, wow, that's spot on. There you go.
Oh, thank you, Erin. But see, she's a free spirit, and she doesn't like being closed away either. But the 4 saying, you've got to do this and got to do that. And the 5 saying, no, just go with it, enjoy. And the 1 saying, yes, stand your ground. Because they're both on the bottom of the grid, the 1 and the 4. So that is down to earth, very practical. But the 5 saying, who cares? Spend your money. And then when she spent the money, she would go, oh, my God, what have I done? And see, with her name, it would be 59955. Is there an E at the end of Erin? No.
No.
So it's
E-R-I-N.
ERIN. So it would be 5995.
Right.
That is the number of her name, her first name. So that's 10. That becomes 15, 30. Right? Am I right?
You've lost me just a minute, because Erin's saying, yep, I have that conflict in my head all the time.
Yeah. Thank you, Erin, for letting me know. So the 9 and 5 is 5, and it's 10. So with the name Erin, 9 and 5 is 14, and 14 is 28, becomes a 10-1. So with her name, Erin, is all about starting afresh. People feel that with her, that she has the strength, and she may find when she needs someone that they're not around her, because 1 means loner. I stand alone. But it can also mean through her name, she can bring brand new things to herself if she can stop that dialogue in her mind. Does that make sense, Erin? Please let me know.
Interesting. Because sometimes people see us differently. You mentioned that people would be reaching out to Erin and yet inside she might be cringing. And I think that's, yes, we can give the effect that we are super confident, and yet that's not necessarily the case.
That's right.
Absolutely. I'm blown away with how spot on you are.
Thank you. It's just, oh, sorry, I moved the table. We all shake. It's amazing that you can even put your, I think I've said it before on the program, on Angel Heart Radio, that you can actually, if we have a musician that could put the numbers, because I'm not a musician by any way, shape or form, put the numbers to music, and you can use your name as a tune. You make a tune out of your name with the vibrations of all different numbers.
Wow.
Yeah.
See,
so we've got
I'm
our own vibration.
I'm fascinated by numerology
Mm.
because, you know, our parents, say for instance, our parents choose our names, and I know there are some people who then change their name because they feel as though the name that was given to them doesn't fit.
That's right.
And so that's interesting too, isn't it? Because obviously, yes, they don't, the vibration doesn't sit with them.
Yeah. And see, with names, most numerologists that I know of, and I've looked at and read books about, they always say you go by your birth name. When you're doing a numerology, you've got to go by your birth name.
Oh, that's interesting.
Then you can do, like, if people called you Anne, A-double-N,
yeah,
right?
Which I don't like.
No, you don't.
No.
And that's good you don't like that, because that becomes 11. The A and the N and N is 11. So 11 means I take on a lot more than I should.
Isn't it? Well, that's fascinating that I don't like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And my middle name is Anne, A-double-N, and I use that, but I use it with Elaine Anne.
Yes.
All right. But if I was doing, it's when we take on a different vibration, is when we get married. If people take on their spouse's name,
yes,
then their karmic changes, because they've dropped, like my maiden name has been dropped and I use my husband's name. So you take on their shield, or you take on their karmic lessons as well.
It's interesting that these days a lot of people do not change their names, or they hyphenate their name.
Yeah. I think I mean,
can I
just between you and I and Angel Heart Radio, Facebook, if I had my life over again, or I had a chance to change my name back to my maiden name, I would. Because I loved my maiden name.
It's interesting, isn't it? Now, Erin's saying, I've always struggled when people call me Ez, E-Z. So,
yeah. So that's because of the vibration as well, but it's also, it's taking her power away. I feel, I mean, I don't know if everyone agrees with that in numerology land, but I think it's nice to know what the person likes with their name, because that's their vibration, and it's like their vibrations being tampered with. It's abbreviated, and it's like I'm cutting off an arm. That's my opinion. It doesn't necessarily sit with everyone else, and it's okay if you like your nickname.
Sure, yes, if you're drawn to it. I had reason this morning to ask my son. His name is Michael. He goes by Mick unless he's in his professional role. And he's coming out with me to a function next month. And it was like, oh, what would you like to be called? And he prefers Mick. Whereas I must admit, even though I know he likes being called Mick, I tend to oscillate between Michael and Mick. And yet his two brothers, I have no problems in shortening their names. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, my mum called me Laney. When she was angry, she called me Elaine. Yeah. And then I'd go running.
that's a whole other show, because I know people, yes, they'll be called their shortened version or a nickname, and yet, yes, so if somebody really wants to get their attention or they're in trouble, they know it because they're called by their whole name.
I have a funny story. When my daughter used to call me Mum, 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 and I'd be busy cooking or doing washing or whatever, then she'd turn around and said, Elaine. And I turned around and said, that's not my name. Now it's stuck. She calls me Elaine instead of Elaine.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
It's so funny. It really is funny. And then I'll get a message, have a beautiful day, Elaine. But I like it because it's funny and we have a laugh about it.
Yes.
Or Lovey. I get Lovey a lot from her.
Right.
Morning, Lovey.
Yeah, see, one of my boys calls me woman, and it's very endearing. Some people wouldn't see it that way. I do. I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I do.
Now, Erin would like to know, can you recommend any resources to research numerology, because she's so intrigued?
Okay. There's a lot of books out there. So if she just looks up numerologist, or she'll see on YouTube all different people, but if she doesn't gel with them, close it off and find someone else. I like listening to a lady called Anne Perry. She's pretty good with what she says about numerology. And sometimes if I get a bit stuck, I go on her, you know how your brain just doesn't work sometimes? I go on hers and just listen to what she says about certain numbers. And then I go, oh, yeah, that's right. Because her and I think similar. So, yeah. So for next month, it's mainly saying, how do I get things happening around us? And the 4 will say, because it's the 14-5, just for the month and the year. And see, people will say, if you look at it, people might go, oh, like last year, the 21st of the 2nd, 21.
Yes.
Right? The important number they've dropped off is the 2. And I know that's abbreviation and whatever their understanding about it, but the 2 and the 0, the 0 empowers your numbers. It's like it softens, it makes you see things. It makes you look at things. And it with the 0, there's no start or end with the 0, but it's like a magnifying glass. And the magnifying glass will show you what is going on. It's also saying that the 0 is saying there's no problem unless you want to make it a problem. And they cut that 2 out with the 20 and the 0. They cut it out and put 21. So it becomes like 3, 2, 3. Which equals an 8. But it's not. It equals 8, 9, 10. Brand new beginnings.
Right. I find it fascinating because when I write a date, I do leave off the 2 and the 0. I'll write the 26th of the 7th, 22.
So I always write, and even when I was younger, when I worked as in an office, I always wrote the full date. Always. And I wasn't into numerology then. Because it weakens the number. If that makes sense. I know everyone's got their own opinion, and I know everyone understands numerology different to me, but this is what happens on Elaine's planet.
Right.
Yeah. And
Good.
see, with changing your name to something you like, you're still going to go to your birth certificate.
Well, yes, Erin had quite a lot to say. She has had several surnames.
Yeah. So
over
she
her
would have
life.
felt the difference in her too when she took those names off, add them on.
And Erin says she's always written the full date. Good on you, Erin.
Yeah.
Well done.
Stand in your power, girl. Yeah. See, with
Erin,
her names, all those different names, they could be karmic lessons too.
all right, so, because Erin was saying that when she went for her driver's license, she had to use what was on her birth certificate, and it was
right.
a name that she hadn't used. It meant nothing to her. So she chose to take her husband's last name. So she's had quite a few surnames.
Yes. So with her birth certificate, that will always be her vibration, no matter which way we look at it. But if she goes for a reading with a numerologist, it's okay to say people like Joanne get called Joe. You get called Joe every day, so you can actually do it to the name Joe, J-O,
right,
instead of Joanne. Like with my full name, there's a lot of fives, and that's my lesson to free up and step into my fears, because 5 is all about changes.
Right.
And I'm pretty good with changes now I've got older. But if someone told me I had to do something, I would get my back of my neck stand up.
Well, Erin feels, she said, I obviously have a lot of karmic lessons to resolve.
Not necessarily, Erin. It's karmic lessons could be just connecting with someone, living your life for 4 or 5, whatever years, and that contract is finished. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's saying next, so if you believe in coming back again, you won't have to deal with this again. And see, it doesn't necessarily mean the surname can be bad either. It could be a good name, depending on the value of what you come up with. Say like my surname was Barker, so it was a 2, 1, 9, 2, 5, 9. I did it. So working all that out and coming down to one number, it meant a lot of growth for me and a lot of happiness. But I can't add it up now because my brain's not working that well, as we know. But taking on my husband's name, it's come out, I think it's a 22. So it means old soul stuff, emotions, trying to work things out all the time, pairing things up, being happy. It's the 4, don't spend money, but do it a little bit less. So it's basically when we take on a surname, it is changing our vibration, but not our identity, because they're two different things.
Yes, and that's the whole new ball game. Tell me, Elaine, how if these lovely people would like to get in contact with you, what is the best way?
They can contact me on Elaine Ann, no E, because I couldn't have another 5 in my name. Elaine Ann 01 @gmail.com. And
sorry, Elaine, and you said number 1, didn't you?
01.
Oh, sorry. I'm glad okay. Very good. At
gmail.com.
I'm just putting this in the chat because we've come to the end of our show.
Holy guacamole, that's gone fast. Time flies when you're having fun, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'd really like to thank our audience as well as thanking you, Elaine.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Erin. Thank you so much for allowing us to be who we are.
Well, isn't it interesting how Erin came in, and obviously this has opened up maybe a new path for Erin, and we don't know how many other people will tune in and suddenly go, oh, this is fascinating, which is what I've always thought about numerology.
I'm going to look at going on Angel Heart Radio next Tuesday, if there's no time being taken, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon,
1 o'clock
for an hour.
Melbourne time.
Yeah.
All right.
So then I'll talk about numerology, but I'll be doing little readings here and there.
Good.
Yes.
Wonderful. So people, stay tuned and check out Elaine Ann on Angel Heart Radio, her own show. And Elaine will be with me again towards the end of August.
That's right.
As we're saying goodbye, may I remind you all that these shows should never replace your legal, medical, nor professional advice, nor your own sound judgment. You heard Elaine say this is her opinion, and we're all fortunate enough to be able to have our own opinion and to listen to our own intuitiveness. Trust that voice within, not the one in your mind, the one
That's right.
within.
It's your tummy. Trust your tummy. Your tummy tells you. Your heart can too, but we get confused.
Yes. Listen to the heart. All right. And Erin would love to be in touch. That's fantastic.
Oh, that's good.
Do you do charts for people? Yes, you do. You do readings, don't you, Elaine?
Yes, I do readings with numerology. And I tune into spirit when I do my numerology. So I pass on information. Doesn't make sense to me, but I will pass it on and see where it comes from there.
Very, very good. All right. So your email address is out there, which is fantastic. And you're also available on Facebook. So there are ways of getting in touch with Elaine.
That's right. I have got a page called Elaine on Facebook. So if they want to connect with me on that too, it's up to them. It's their choice.
Very good.
Thank you so much, Annette. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. May you enjoy life. Bring the joy into your life and into the lives of others. Bye for now.